Hello, everyone. Welcome to PAC-Con 2020. Thank you so much for joining us for this keynote session. As you heard, I'm sure from Zoom, the robot voice that will be recording this session to be shared later. So that will be happening as we go. We want to begin with sharing a land acknowledgement. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So if there are any visual learners out there, you can kind of follow along as we go. So thank you. We, as Platt House, the PAC Shop, and PAC-Exec, want to begin with a voicing of gratitude to the past and present generations of Indigenous people for the opportunity to live our lives in this space. Although we're gathering on the internet, many of us are living and learning on Lenape-Hoking. We currently call this space Philadelphia, but this land was stolen from the Lenni Lenape tribe, the original stewards of this land. If you don't know the name and story of the people whose land you occupy, you can find that information and many other great resources at nativeland.ca. We'll post that link in the chat box in case you want to go ahead and visit it. Also, just a quick reminder that this Monday is Indigenous Peoples Day. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing, and I'm going to turn things over to Laurie McCall.
I'm already off mute. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. It's so nice to see so many people, some faces, some names in the group. If you have questions at any time, please pop them in the chat, and I'm sure there'll be time at the end to ask questions as well. I am so honored to be here with two amazing speakers that are joining all of us. I'm going to start first by introducing Mamta Accapadi, and then she's going to turn it over to Chaz Howard, and I'm looking forward to a very wonderful session. Mamta Accapadi is our new Vice Provost for University Life, and for those of you who may not know, Platt Student Performing Arts House is in the division, so Mamta is who we report to, and she came to us from Rollins College, where she's Vice President of Student Affairs. And she is so well known in the student affairs community and different organizations. And for those of you who may not be familiar with what a student affairs career is, we're all the people that study and then become professionals that make sure that the whole student is looked after on a college campus, not just your grades, but everything that you do. And offer support and resources and connections. So a little bit more about Mamta. She has had administrative and teaching positions at Oregon State University, University of Houston, and the University of Texas at Austin. She has served as a consultant on diversity and inclusion efforts, specifically focusing on the development and empowerment of employee resource groups. Known for her service within Student Affairs Professional Associations, NASPA, and ACPA, Mamta has been recognized for her sustained focus on leadership pipeline development and mentorship opportunities for historically underrepresented communities. She has received multiple awards, including the Zenobia Hikes Award for her commitment to the advancement of women in higher ed, and has been recognized as a pillar of the profession by NASPA. She served as an ACE Fellow in 2016, specifically focusing on pathways to best support community college and four-year institution partnerships in service of students. As a scholar practitioner, her research interests include Asian American identity development, social justice education, and issues impacting women of color. She attended the University of Texas at Austin, where she received all three of her degrees, and we're so happy she's here at Penn. So I'm going to turn it over to Mamta, and we'll go from there. So all yours.
Good evening, everyone. How are y'all doing? Some thumbs up signs for anyone that wants to show. I don't know what the rules are around showing video or not. So yes, in the chat box. That's awesome. Oh my gosh, I'm loving these emojis. I forget we can do that. I'm so thankful to be here. Lori, oh my gosh, thank you for, you know, when people read our bios, it feels like, oh, who is that person, you know? So I just so cherish your kindness. And I'm just so thankful to be in community with all of you. I can't wait for the moment that we get to be together in person, because we're together in person and in spirit now, but in person, spirit, when we next have that chance and opportunity. So I have to say a few things before I have the great opportunity to introduce my colleague, friend, mentor, Reverend Dr. Chaz Howard. And I want to tell you just how much I appreciate that which you do here at Penn. And so I come from a culture of storytelling, and so I, tend to start with lots of stories. And so you won't get a lot of stories, but when I started college, I went to a great school, and yet I could not. I mean, I was not fitting in, and I really, really struggled. So, Lori mentioned that all of my degrees are from the University of Texas. She didn't mention that my undergrad degree is in microbiology. So I have degrees in microbiology and biochemistry. Thanks, Mom and Dad. This is because they wanted me to be a medical doctor, which I did not want to do or be. And so, of course, kind of with all the stress and anxiety of letting my family down, I entered the University of Texas kind of not knowing how to navigate because the last things I heard before I went to college, my mother said, now I can die in peace because my child is going to fulfill my dream of becoming a doctor, right? No pressure or anything. And so I came to the university with a lot of stress, a lot of pressure, and on a pathway that didn't align with my spirit. And it was hard for me to find like-minded friends and spaces that would understand that, but I found that in my cultural community space. I start with that because the other thing not in my bio, Lori, is, in my mind, I'm a Bollywood star, right? Because don't we all want to be Bollywood stars? So like in my mind, I'm totally a Bollywood star. I just haven't been discovered yet. So, and so when I was in college, the thing that actually kept me going was dance and dance performance. And so it was the artistic experience and the artistic journey that sustained my spirit and became the anchor of my story and experience at the University of Texas. But here, get this, right? At the university, we had rules, as we all have rules here. And so when we would reserve space in what was called our student union, there were different rules. So like in my culture, we have these sticks, they're called dandias. And when we use dandias to perform, the concern that we couldn't reserve rooms that we paid student fees for was that your equipment ruins the floor, so you cannot reserve those rooms. And so we would then, of course, we couldn't find places to practice or choreograph. And so I'm a rule follower, and I'm really like afraid of like speaking in public. And so get this, our teams would then perform like in residence hall lobbies, which you can tell like that would then be disruptive, right? And so it's like, oh, well, you're kind of like in the way, like people try to get to their rooms or the dining hall, and here we are like 20-person people with our dandias and stuff like that, props, trying to do stuff. And people didn't like that. And so we'd get in trouble for that. And so when trying to find more space, we would take, back in the day, do y'all know what boom boxes are? Someone tell me, what a boom, so, right, we'd have our boom boxes, right? Oh, yes, thank you, Adam. We'd take the boom box and we would have our battery, right? You have to have lots of batteries for these boom boxes outside in the parking lot and blare the music in the parking lot and practice outside. Like, of course, that's not safe either, right? So here I am, the most timid person among my friends, trying to do something that I love, and not being able to do that in different places and spaces. So we didn't know what to do, right? And then we're getting in trouble with the Office of Student Conduct along the way. I don't recommend getting in trouble with the Office of Student Conduct. However, what I then began to notice was, the Black men in what I now know to be Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, who use canes, could not reserve space in the student union where they pay fees to be able, because their canes were also supposedly going to ruin the floor, right? What I also noticed was that the Dragon Dance team could not use the Texas Union for the same reason. Are y'all getting what I'm getting to here? Ballet Folklorico, gosh, their shoes are going to ruin the floor. So there was always a reason that certain communities could not use the spaces at a public institution where we pay fees to pay for those buildings. And so, and yet when the campus would have diversity day and they wanted communities to share in the diversity of the campus community, who were they, right? Who do they call to say, hey, can you do your cultural performance? Can you? And so here I am still deeply afraid of speaking in public. I'm still deeply afraid of rocking the boat. Timid me just began asking the question like a toddler, why? Like, why can't we? And from there, I started pulling those groups together, and I'd never known, like, I didn't know the history of NPHC or historically African-American fraternity sororities. I had no idea what Ballet Folklorico was growing up in Texas. I didn't know these things, but I started pulling them together and going, you're having this issue, How about this? Why don't we tell the university that we are not going to perform? None of our groups will perform because we can't even access the spaces or create community, and we're getting in trouble. We can't even rehearse. So not only are we not going to perform, that seemed like defiant, but we literally can't even prepare for said performance. We were disproportionately impacted. I'm not sharing this to intentionally cause trouble. Most people, when we engage in activism, we don't do it with the intention of causing trouble. We do it because our stories haven't been recognized, and we've tried in one way and tried another. And at no point did an educator in my position say, let's help you get what you need, right? So every step of the way, it was, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. But no one ever stopped to say, you're trying to do something. Let us help you get what you need so you could do what you want to do that brings you joy. That is your, in my case, University of Texas, in your case, your Penn experience, right? And so when I am with all of you, I'm so thankful because of all of you, the opportunities you create, the opportunities you present, you create the Penn experience for so many students. And you create ways in which students can do and express and be in dimensions of wholeness in who they or we are. But my dance experience taught me how to negotiate conflict. It taught me how to have tough conversations, right? It taught me how to overcome, not that I've succeeded, in being in front of people. It taught me so much more. And even those skills, those are the things that I rely on now in my job with all of you and when I'm in communities. And if not for that experience, I wouldn't be sitting in front of you right now. So when you think about the life transformation of the arts and the artistic experience, I just want you to hold on to the fact that you're having a profound experience and you're creating such amazing spaces for so many of your peers to do so too. And I just want to offer you my gratitude. So with that, I'm going to get out of the way. And I'm just so thankful again that you're in community here today. And I just cherish all of you. And I can't wait to, again, be in community with you in so many different ways later on. But I have such a gift to have this opportunity to, again, you know, it's interesting to introduce you to a man who really, truly does not, there are no words that can kind of contain an introduction, but I want to rely on Reverend Dr. Charles Chaz Lattimore Howard's official biography because I don't want to miss some of the amazing milestone moments in his career that have transformed the lives of so many people. So Dr. Chaz Howard is the university chaplain. And in addition to that, he is the vice president for social equity and community here at the University of Pennsylvania. And so just want to congratulate you, Dr. Howard, on your new role, and excited to work alongside you and learn from you in that capacity. Dr. Howard was an undergrad at Penn, and as an undergraduate student, he studied urban studies and Africana studies and was involved with student government, Greek life, and sang in the Inspiration a cappella group, so another artist. Since graduating, he served in both hospital and hospice chaplaincies and as a street outreach worker to individuals experiencing homelessness in Philadelphia before returning to his alma mater. His writing has been featured in such publications as Daily Good, Sojourners Magazine, Chronicle of Higher Education, The Huffington Post, the Christian Century, the Philadelphia Inquirer, the Forward, and Slate. He is the author of 5 books, including the most recently Pond River Ocean Rain, a collection of brief essays about going deeper with God, and The Bottom, a theopoetic of the streets. He shares a life with his beloved wife, Dr. Leah C. Howard, class of 2000, and their 3 daughters. So I'm going to get out of the way. And Dr. Howard, so honored to be in community with you.
Sister Mamta, you are a blessing and nothing less than a gift to our university. We've lost a lot in this last year, but we also gained you. And Mamta has become one of my very good friends here on campus. And we saw each other all day in like meetings, like every couple hours I would see you. And so I'll understand if you log off after I thank you and sort of go to, and I think it's always important to begin with gratitude, anything we do, even in hard times. So I have to thank my other sister here, my other pixelated sister here, Lori, who I've enjoyed growing closer to over the last several years, and formal stuff that we've had to do, and then just sort of chatting it up at various student affairs things. What you have done with performing arts on campus, it can't be overstated. It was special when I was here. You and your whole team have really taken it to another level, and so I remain deeply grateful. And I got to shout my guy Adam out too. My man from way back. I've been to many basketball games with you and all kind of stuff, and yeah, whatever. So let me also name, this is a hard time. It's just a hard time in the world right now. Dr. Gutman described this as a generational event. And, I think many of us, even on this Zoom, have felt the sting, the cruelty of coronavirus and COVID-19. We've had to say goodbye to members of our community. You did a memorial service last semester for a faculty member, and there have been members in our health system, and many of us have lost family members or have other people who've come ill and come close to having to say goodbye. This is hard. And then the economic fallout from the pandemic has certainly hit our campus and hit a lot of our families. And then the wildfires in California and the hurricanes down south, and there's really global unrest politically, and kind of unrest politically here, and the uptick in sort of police violence by cops and murder by cops and sort of racialized violence. I mean, it sort of had a major threat of a governor yesterday sort of foiled. I'm like, there's just a lot happening right now. It's overwhelming. It's kind of too much. And for y'all to have to do school online, in so many ways, I think our faculty and staff have really stepped up and are trying to make it work, but it's hard. It's the physical attention of being on Zoom and the torture of being away from friends and not be able to do what we love the way we love to do it. Be it dance or sing or write or do theater or stage craft, like all that's been affected. And it's hard. Full stop. It's just been a hard year. But art. But the arts. Okay. My kids say my favorite form of communication is rambling and tangent. And so if I can ramble a story real quick, and maybe there's something in my rambling that maybe you can hold on to, but I joined a pen a cappella group called The Inspiration, as Mamta mentioned. And it's my 8-9, I had some of all the things that I miss about being a college student. The thing that I miss the most is sort of singing with the people I met with every other day for like 3 hours, by the way. Like I don't miss those long practices, but I do miss the gift of sort of making harmony with people you love, of road tripping to do shows, and kind of the nervousness about going on stage. Like I miss being in my group, my performing arts group, more than anything else. And can I tell the story of when I tried out for it? So I sang in high school. I was in like our glee club in high school and like a little group there. And so I was like, things I want to do in college, this is the first thing I want to do. I wanted to keep singing. And so I saw this group, The Inspiration, a group that sort of specialized in singing music of the African diaspora. And I saw them perform at like one of the back to school nights. And I was like, I want to be in that group. So I remember trying out for this group. And when I walked in, I saw one of the altos there, and the expression on her face changed when she saw me. I walked in like, oh, and by the way, none of this was here. It was all up here. I had like one of those like high top fades from like Kid and Play, like I had like an old 19, high top, whatever. It was tight. It was cool, and it somehow like moved down my chin. And so I walk in and I see Nikki, who I later, and she sees my face and she looks at me like, because the night before, some of my guys and I were walking back to our dorm. I lived in Du Bois, and we played this game. And the game was anytime one of the Penn vans would come around, so like the shuttles that sort of drive you around, dial 898 ride and it takes you there. Anytime we would see a Penn van pulling up to pick people up, we would stand in front of it and walk really, really slowly, like obnoxiously slowly, to the point where they're like leaning on the horn, like, beep, beep, and we like, do you hear something? And it was a stupid, like, dumb game that we played. And so we would do this anytime we were walking anywhere and the van was there. We kind of stand in front of it and kind of take our sweet time. And beep, beep, beep. The person driving the van the night before was Nikki from The Inspiration. And so when I walk in the room and she sees me, and it's like, and I remembered her face because she was giving us the finger. She was like flashing the lights, screaming out the window, like, and we won the game. But I ended up like losing the game the next night at tryouts. So I sing, and I'm like, well, maybe she'll accept me anyway. I feel like I got a good shot, because like I'm the only bass trying out for the group tonight, and like they graduated 3 basses. There was like 1 dude left. I was like, hey, I'm the only one trying out. Like I feel like I have a good shot. So the tryouts finish, and the tradition was that you kind of go to the room of the person who tried out, and you sort of let them know in person if they made it. So be in your room between 9 and 11. So I'm sitting there waiting. I hear a knock at the door. It's Nikki. She opens the door and says, hey, I just wanted to let you know in person that you didn't get in the group. And I'm like, oh, and like, little tears are forming in my mind. It's okay. That's cool. Thanks for the opportunity to try out. I just have one question, she says. Were you that little punk who was standing in front of the Penn van a couple nights ago when I was trying to drive? And I wanted to say no, but I was like, you know what? Yes, I'm so sorry. It was me. Like, I'm tearing up. And the rest of the group comes from around the side of the hallway, and they all start laughing, saying, you made it in the group. I bring that story up because it still stings a little bit, the fact that Nikki played me trying to pretend like I didn't make it in the group, even though I was like the only bass trying out and like whatever. But the point is, she says later, had you lied and not told the truth, I really would have pushed for you not to be in the group. But Chaz, says Nikki, who was a senior to me, it's always important to tell the truth. It's always important to tell the truth. And I think that's ultimately the message I want to leave with you all tonight. You got to tell the truth, even when the truth hurts. And to me, this is one of the great gifts of what art can do. You can tell the truth in a way that other spaces can't. You can tell the truth about what's happened. You can sort of reflect very clearly what's happening right now. You can also paint a picture of what we could be. But it's not the same as sort of like a talk over Zoom truth. It's, Emily Dickinson has this poem called Telling the Truth Slant. And she says, tell all the truth, but tell it slant. Success in circuit lies. Too bright for our infirm delight, the truth's superb surprise. As lightning to the children eased, with explanation kind. The truth must dazzle gradually, or every man be blind. The truth must dazzle gradually, or every man be blind. I apologize for the non-inclusive language there, but it's this notion of telling the truth slant. And I think art can do that in a way that sometimes it's hard for just regular speaking to do. And that's been true in my life. And I hope it's true in the art that you'll create in this moment where we absolutely need truth telling. You know, the art plays so many roles in our lives. It entertains us, and it's a great escape sometimes. And it's a chance to bring joy. And by the way, there is something deeply revolutionary about joy in this moment. I had a chance last night to reaffirm the wedding vows of a couple who I married 10 years ago. And we all got on Zoom. And it wasn't what they planned to do. They wanted to make a destination wedding back to Philadelphia so we could kind of do the wedding in person, do the wedding renewal vows in person. We did it over Zoom. And all of us were teary because it was a profoundly defiant thing to smile in this moment in our country. A moment full of so much hate and fear and division. There is something really, really sort of revolutionary about a joy, about sort of a Black boy joy and Black girl magic right now. And so we smiled and we laughed, and like they hit music and they were dancing on Zoom. And I was like, this is it. And you can give that. You all can sort of give that kind of moving joy that moves us to tears in a time where we're crying tears of grief. But there's also this sort of thing we need also from artists right now. And again, it's truth telling. Telling what we are going through. Whether it's through song or dance, or the written word, or through old shows that capture what we're feeling right now. And we need art to lead the way. We need critical artists that can speak prophetically to what's happening right now, that can name oppression and name racism, even if it's through comedy, even if it's through balance and synchronization and harmony. Like, we need that. But there's a lot pushing against you too. I have a colleague who I think is one of the great jazz vocalists here in Philadelphia and really all around the country. Her name's Ruth Naomi Floyd. Google her, listen to some of her music. She has this tremendous voice, this deep range from kind of like a tenor up to a mezzo soprano, just a tremendous, tremendous range of voice. This is gonna sound like a humble flex, and I don't mean for it to. I have a new book coming out this month, and Ruth was one of the first people to read it. I was really nervous about it. I was like, Ruth, it feels a little too radical for kind of where I am right now. And I feel like if I sort of change it a little bit, maybe it'll sort of land better. She says, Chaz, look, I don't want you to worry about how many books you're going to sell or any awards you might get. I don't want you to worry about the reviews you will get online. If you're worried about that, then, she says, you are not free. And I need you to be a free Black man right now. And she says, sometimes those awards and the accolades and the applause is not worth it. It may have Tiffany's diamonds in it, but if it's still a chain, it's still a chain. So I want to remind you of this, that there is a challenge against truth-telling. And it is fear. A fear of what they will say. A fear that they won't like what you're bringing. A fear that this might be your last show. Be free. If I can draw from a different part of our university, and a story that I've held the last couple of years, the head basketball coach, Steve Donahue, and folks in the band here will sort of recognize that anyone who's sort of been to the game will know Coach Donahue of our men's basketball team. Before the games, he's in the locker room with a lot of the guys, and he's doing the X's and O's and kind of going over strategy. And I got to sort of visit the locker room, a couple years ago. And look, when you're chaplain, like people are kind of like just nice to you because I think they think you'll stay on their prayer list, or that's like bad for their like spiritual journey if they're mean to you and like whatever, all that kind of stuff. And so like they kind of I get random tickets to stuff, and it's and I think there's something about people think like the chaplain's a lucky charm, so they drag the priest and all those kind of people to games with them, and like I don't think that's true, but I'm not going to tell them. And in fact, do me a favor, don't tell Coach Donahue that I'm not bringing good luck, but whatever. So I go there, and so I'm sitting in the locker room, and he's telling the story, and he's sort of doing the exercise, and he turns to the guys and says, "Look, beyond all this on the wall, don't forget what I'm going to say. If we're not afraid to make mistakes, we'll win this game." He tells the players who are minutes from going on the court, if we're not afraid to make mistakes, we'll win this game. And the inverse is, if we are afraid, if we're playing with fear, we'll probably lose. Because when you're afraid, you play tight, you're sort of scared to take a shot, and you sort of get a little like cruel to your teammates. You start blaming people like that. You don't want to go in. And so it's safer on that. I think it's the same is true with art too. If we're afraid of how it's going to be received, we dance tight as opposed to letting our shoulders drop and sort of just be free. If we're overthinking every note, if we're overthinking our lines and not letting us sort of fall into the character, it's never going to be as beautiful as it could be. And it's true too with justice work and in the work I'm calling you to do right now. If you're afraid of making a mistake, if you're afraid of getting a boo in the audience, if you're afraid of that your group mates won't like this idea you have, how can we win? How can we make progress? I need you to take holy risks, scandalous risks, in order for the needle to move. That idea you're sort of drafting in your journal about for a song or a poem or a song you want to choreograph to, do it. Please. We need you to sort of take risks and tell the truth. But the challenge is, how do you tell the truth when you don't know what the truth is? Or when you don't know someone else's truth? My challenge here is to get into the pain of others. And so Friday night is movie night in my house. And Laurie's probably heard me tell the story before. And right now I have 3 daughters. And we're like a big Disney family. And shout out to Disney Accapadi too. We're a big Disney family. And so a few years back, I have a junior in high school, a freshman in high school, and I have a first grader. A few years back, my youngest one, Evie, she was like 2 or 3. And we're home, we're watching the movie, The Princess and the Frog. Great movie. And I would say spoiler alert, but like if you haven't seen it at this point, like the kind of window of spoiler alerts, it expires after a while. So I won't run the whole movie, but toward the end of the movie, there's this like little bug, this little firefly named Ray. And Ray dies. And so we're sitting in our living room, and I see this bug get squished. And like, I was in like a sensitive moment. I was sort of like tired or something. So like, I'm just bawling. I'm like, Ray, no! And like, I'm just crying and just a mess. And my 3-year-old's looking across the room, like, what's wrong with that guy? And she hops off her couch at 3, and I'm sitting here sort of crying. And she kind of like toddles over to me. She climbs up on my lap and is looking in my face, and she pulls the tears off my face and puts them on hers. She says, Daddy crying. Daddy's crying. and she started crying my tears. She pulled the tears off my face and cried them herself. There is something profound about crying each other's tears that allows us to sing each other's truths. I was always moved by the sort of the brave non-Black people who would join the inspiration. Some of that often was just sort of an appreciation for a certain type of music. But there's also something profound about sort of singing our blues with us, singing our songs of hope with us. The same was true with sort of groups like African Rhythms, where non-Black artists would sort of dare get on the stage and perform dances that weren't necessarily theirs, but to do it with respect, with permission given, and a desire to communicate another's truth. That's scary. We don't want it to be received as sort of cultural appropriation. We don't want it to sort of seem exploitative. We don't want to sort of do something that may be misconstrued as mockery or anything like that. But if the intention is right, and it's a desire to sort of get in another's pain, this has been one of the beautiful things of 2020. After the knee on the neck of a Black man, and bullets that came through a wall and killed a Black woman, it was not just Black people who were protesting around this country. It was not just Black lawns that had Black Lives Matter signs put in the ground. There were a lot of different types of people out there. In fact, in some of the demonstrations here in Philly, I would say that there were more non-Black people than there were Black folks out there. And that is amazing. That is love. That is telling someone else's truth. For a non-Black person to wrap their mouth around the words, Black Lives Matter. It's holy. It's brave. It is truth telling. It's telling someone else's truth. It's moving. And this is where I'll land. You know, I was originally taught that the word MC, I'm a hip hop head from Baltimore. And I was originally taught that the sort of word MC was like initials MC. And there was an old rapper, I think named Rakim, who described MC meaning move the crowd. Whatever art you're going to do, you great artists and creatives of pen, I want you to move us. And not just move us to stand to our feet and applaud you. And not just move us to tears. And not just move us to smiles. But move us in the direction we need to go. You care about pilots? You care about fossil fuels? The election? Police? Racism? Move us. Inspire us, challenge us, call us to be our best self as a university and as a society, because you can do it in a way no one else can. And because we believe in you, and because we need you. Thanks for letting me join you all. I'm so grateful for all you bring to our campus. I can't wait to applaud you on stage and back in West Philadelphia. Peace, everybody.
Thank you.
Wow, Chaz, thank you so much. And thank you, Mamta, for the great intro to this night. I would just ask if it's okay, if anyone can maybe ask questions or has any follow-up or wants to break something down, or feel free to put in the chat or raise your hand in some way. We're here. I think that for me, listening to you, really, I think that inspiration, not just the group, but the inspiration that you put forth is, I think, extremely well received and necessary. So, and beautiful, as always.
See what you did there, Laurie, that inspiration. That was cool.
I did. Well, they picked a good name. Jasmine, you have been so much fun to watch. You are a great cheerleader. I don't have another good word, but yeah, you have been so engaged. And I noticed when you put that hat on, by the way, when Mamta was talking about your groups, right? So yeah, so that was awesome.
I see you, so Roar. I see you're gonna be ski-weeing in the White House soon. I know how y'all do. It's gonna be all right.
Any questions?
Chaz, thank you so much. And Mamta, thank you so much for just like for this gift of the time that we get to spend with you here on the internet. There's like, I think there's very few times still, although Zoom has gotten better and we've gotten better at doing it, that I feel like truly like not like I'm a person alone by myself in the living room. And this was one of those moments where I felt like a true sense of being not alone. So thank you. Thank you for this moment.
I also would just like to jump in for a quick minute. And again, thank you, Mamta, and thank you, Chaz. I actually snuck my partner in to watch the session because he's an artist too. And I feel like it's been hard to create in this time. And I just felt like he needed to hear what was being said as well. So thank you for like reminding us to like find the things in ourselves to help put the things out there. I just really, really appreciate it.
And I think it got across like for our students, you know, your extracurricular may be more important than other things that you're doing. And I know for some of us in the staff lineup, our extracurriculars guided us more than our academics did at times. And your extracurriculars are far exceed whatever I did at college. So, you know, it's just that you have the talent and you have a great community that when you guys come together, there's nothing you can't do.
My GPA proves that my extracurriculars outweighed my academic stuff in college. So go class 2.
I don't know, Chaz, if you're reading the chat, but there's lots of thank yous to you in the chat. And Mamta's, I like Mamta's. Let the auntie dance. It's great.
I know someone's got to let me join their group. We're figuring this out. So offline.
T-shirt, Mamta. Let the auntie dance. That'd be a great T-shirt.
Well, any other comments or questions? And I will say, you're all beautiful people, and thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think this session was very necessary and very moving. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. And before you roll out, if you haven't, remember to put your name in the chat so we know that you were here. Otherwise, we'll send you the video. Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Bye, all. Take care and be well.